Alright, welcome back everybody. So I'm filming this, I don't know, 20 minutes after the last video I put out. Uh, but best way to get a little bit of content going, I guess I'm gonna just back to back film some stuff. So a few days ago I was on Instagram looking around, as I'm sure many of you guys do, and I was looking in Reels and Jonathan Farmer. If anybody has not heard of or seen Midnight Sun Custom Flies on Instagram, you're missing out. Dude's a credible tire, released a really awesome book. Anyways, he did a really simple Marabou tube fly that looked quite simple and easy. So I started messing around with it and I liked it, and I'm gonna post one heavily inspired by the original popsicle fly. So again, in the tube or in the vise, I have a tube needle. This is a Pro Sportfisher flexi tube. Again, it's the 40-40 mil, but I cut the guide down a little bit. And we're gonna also put a turbo disc on this guy, 9mm in pink. It's the medium size. And for thread, I'm just using A-dot uni thread on this guy, fluorescent fire orange. So I'm gonna start just in front of the bump here. And first thing we're gonna do is just a chenille ball, whatever chenille you have. I have no idea how old this is. I've got tons of chenille just kicking around. So we're going to tie that in right in front of the junction from skinny to thick tube, and I'm just going to make a ball. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to tie in 3 stages. It's going to go Marabou, chenille, Marabou, chenille, Marabou. Then we're going to finish with a little guinea feather up front. So I've opted, like I mentioned, the original popsicle. It's orange, pink, and then purple. So this is fluorescent orange Spey Marabou. I've pre-stripped a quill. Not going to use a ton, right? Most of the feather's gone. Going to tie it in by the tip, and realistically probably 3 wraps, 2 or 3 wraps, or until I run out of feather, and that's what's going to go in there. So I just wet the end, get the tip isolated there, and I'm going to tie it in. And I'm going to take the thread right up to the ball. There's no sense having a dubbing ball and then a big space in between. So we're going to use that to help kick and flare the feather up. Alright, so I'm going to just fold it back. Be real gentle with the first turn, right? We're still near the tip, so it's going to be very fragile. Call that 1. Get my thread out of the way. Gonna get rid of some of this excess, make it a lot easier to tie in. Catch the stem. not going to be too concerned with really cranking down on that now because the next material is going to go right over top. And make sure everything looks okay. So pretty sparse, but there's going to be a lot of marabou on this tube, so sparse is not necessarily a bad thing. So next is chenille, using Senyo's Aqua Veil on this one, bubblegum. You could also use like the silver and white UV polar chenille, or any color, right? Mix and match, do whatever whatever you think looks good. So I'm going to tie this in, fibers facing down, and I'm going to do 4 or 5 wraps, so I don't want to necessarily tie it in too far forward. But bring it right on top, and then I'm going to bring this back to where the marabou is. So I tied it with the fibers facing down, so as I wrap forward, it'll cause them to splay outwards. And just like wrapping a hackle, every time I come around, I'm going to bring the fibers back. I'm not packing this in, but I am doing touching turns. That's 3. 4. I like 4 on this guy. This is not super densely packed in, so we'll keep it a little sparser. A very springy, unruly stuff, which is exactly why we're putting it in behind the marabou. It's going to help prop it up and give it some volume and body. Okay, so we'll catch that in, pull everything back, do a couple wraps. And then once you have everything cut, just pull everything back. You can wrap back over top. Okay, so next color, pink. So this is fluorescent, this way. Fluorescent baby shrimp. Okay, again, it's Fish Hunter Spay Marabou. I'm going to do the exact same thing, isolate the tip. Once I have that caught in there, it's much easier to pull everything back. You can give it a few wraps. Trim the tip out, and then I'm going to advance my thread up and out of the way. Just like the last one, fold gentle on the first wrap or two, still quite thin stem. Three is going to be good, so I'm going to come in, get rid of all the extra. And then I unwind my thread. Catch that stem. Cool. All right, next color. So we have a progression from light to dark. A little bit washed out. See the color a little better. Good. So progression from light to dark. So our last Marabou color is going to be purple. So I like to put a darker color chenille in the front. So this is more aquavale, and this is mixed berries. Again, color doesn't matter, whatever you guys want. It doesn't have to be orange, pink, purple. It can be anything you want. So again, I tied it with the fibers down. So now as I wrap it forward, they will splay out, and I'm going to preen back as I go, touching turns. And again, I'm looking at 4 or 5 wraps of material. Okay, so once it's pretty trapped, again, we're going to cut that, pull everything back, and just wind over the end a little bit more aggressively. Okay, now the last chunk of Marabou. Again, Nature Spirit. This is fluorescent dark lilac. Whew. Excuse me. And again, I'm just going to isolate the tip. So now that we're getting near the end, I really want to be mindful of how much I advance my thread. We want to end up with a nice neat little head that we can put that turbo disc over. Okay, so same as the last 2 feathers, fold it, bring it forward nice and easy, especially on the first wrap or 2. Get the thread out of there. Again, I'm going to get rid of all the excess that I'm not wanting on the fly. It makes it a lot easier to just tie in bare stem. Very unruly feather. Okay, and again, unwind my thread. Catch that stem. Perfect. Alright, so next I like to put some flash in, but again, whatever you like. I'm going to use some crinkle mirror flash. I don't like to put a ton of flash, like we've already put 2 different sections of basically puller flash in here, so it will sparkle, but this will be a little bit more of a glint. So I'm going to take 4 strands. Basically I'm going to put 1 strand on each corner on a circular tube fly, but we're going to put a doubled over strand on each of the 4 tops, basically sectors, quadrants, whatever you want to call it. So the first one I tie in, I definitely want to go full length. And I'm going to go bottom on my side. Okay, next I'm going to go top on my side. Thin thread really helps. You don't want to add a ton. And I'll go top on your side, and I'm just going to bring it under my thread. And then finally I will go bottom on your side. Okay, so give that a bit of a snug, wrap a couple times, and then, like I mentioned, we're going to just fold things back. This step can be a pain in the ass, but it works out in the end. Okay, so everything's folded back. A couple more wraps. We don't need to get too carried away because everything is doubled over, right? So it's kind of sandwiched inside. Okay, and then the next step, I'm going to put a guinea feather. This one's purple. Again, I like the light to dark progression, and I've prepared one here. Stem broke off, happens a lot with guinea, so I'm going to use hackle pliers for this. So I'm going to tie the stem in, or the tip in. Just going to wet this marabou. So I'm going to tie the tip in. Okay, I'm gonna run my scissors along the far side just to get the fibers to lay down a little bit. Of course, it's not cooperating. Okay. And you can wrap as little or as much as you like. Doesn't have to be anything. Does have to lay down though, of course. I knew that would happen. All right, live tying. Here we go. So let's get a new feather. This one looks like it could be suitable. Okay, so that's the one I've selected. Be nice if we could keep the stem intact. And again, I'm going to isolate the tip. And again, I'm going to fold the fibers on the far side. It's a little better. Don't know if I'll use this whole feather, but let's see what happens. So again, I'll get my bobbin out of the way. And sure, I will use the whole thing. So again, unwind my thread. Catch that stem, and now you really want to be mindful of your thread wraps. So we definitely want to make sure we secure this in. And we're using 8/0 thread, so it's not super bulky. And I also want to make a little kind of landing pad for that cone. So one of the nice things about these is you can actually dry fit them, right? You throw them on with your thread and everything's still on, no problem. Pretty snug. Okay, so you could whip finish. I generally do not whip finish on a tube. I just use super glue, and I just apply it to my thread here. And one thing I've really noticed with when you put super glue on your thread is if you kind of just throw it on there and wrap kind of aimlessly, it's not going to stick very well. But if you give it good, pretty tight wraps, it sticks real well. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. It's kind of small even on the macro setup, but I've got a bit of a shoulder of thread that the disc is going to butt up real nice against. So I can trim this out now. And I will come back to the super glue. It's a little bit too much. And I'm going to jam the cone on. And that is basically it. So we'll pop this guy off the mandrel. So you can fight and twist and mess around with it. Easiest way I've found, I got this from Savage and Smith. Pinch the back, pinch the front. I'm going to push off my vise in the back and pull in the front. Pops right off. Now I'm going to cut the tube real close to that turbo disc. If you can see that, like a 1/16 of an inch. Keep the tube upright, bring the flame down to it, and it curls over real nice. Make sure you still got a hole. If not, you can throw your bodkin in it. I still have a hole, and there you go. OG popsicle inspired Marabou tube thingy that I saw Jonathan Farmer tie on Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys.